In the headlines tonight, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed vows to solidify ties with Chinese Communist Party. African youth urge African governments and institutions to advance youth interests. Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I'm Grum Tariku. Foreign Relations Director with the Chinese Communist Party arrived in Addis Ababa this afternoon for a working visit. Upon arrival at Bole International Airport, the Director Wang Yi was warmly welcomed by senior government officials. During his official visit, Yi is expected to confer with senior government officials on how to further strengthen the comprehensive strategic cooperation partnership between Ethiopia and China. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed held a discussion with Wang Yi on a host of bilateral and regional issues. African youth urged African governments and institutions to work aggressively for greater representation of the youth. Although Africa is called the young continent because of a large number of young people, the governments and institutions in the continent are lacking in jobs that benefit them. Unemployment, gender-based violence, peace and security problems, and migration are identified as the main problems facing African youth. Johannes van Town has the following account.
Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent with most young demography. After independence, various peace and security problems, civil wars, impacts of climate change, drought, unemployment and migration continues to be Africa's main challenges. Although these problems are concerns of all Africans, the youth are said to be the most affected.
We are facing with a huge problem of unemployment, but also, a huge problem of not being able to meaningfully participate in decision-making processes, but also there is this big issue on gender-based violence. Specifically now that we're in the digital transformation, many youths are being victims of digital violence, but also even the issue of climate change is currently affecting every youth across the globe, African region.
The Ethiopian youth policy have not been updated for the past 19 years. That has been one of the major issues in regards to updating what has been going on for the past years. And as I've been mentioning earlier on as well, the peace and security issue in our home country has been a huge gap. On how we can tackle it is also something that we're facing.
How are young people represented? We can have really good documentation on Kenya. For every single person, they know Kenya has really nice policies, has really nice strategies, has all the nice aspects that can help young people in terms of development. But the key issue is now, how do we contextualize this to make sure that it is realistically being implemented on ground? And this has become a really big problem, especially when it comes to resource distribution.
The youth stated that in order to solve the problems observed in the continent, the governments and continental and regional institutions should work by designing strategies that makes the youth addressable and inclusive.
I would suggest it's high time that our stakeholders and government and other institutions invest highly on financial literacy programs, but also in vocational training skills, so that us as young people can be equipped with proper knowledge so as we can employ ourselves.
Looking at it in the aspect of an intergenerational kind of strategy. Because we really also need the people who are already in these particular spaces, because for them, they've been there for a very long time. So the processes, they already understand the processes. Then having now another context of young people coming in to make sure that now they are using these particular processes to bring in what are the solutions and what are the key engagements that young people are, that are aligned particularly with young people.
The young people believe that the problems of the African youth can be solved with the work of inclusive and representative institutions of the continent and African governments based on the needs of the youth.
Ethiopian embassy in South Sudan teamed up with the Standing Committee of Transitional National Legislative Assembly (TNLA) of the Republic of South Sudan to conduct a two-day consultative workshop on Nile Basin Initiative Cooperation Framework Agreement. Speaking at the event, Ethiopian ambassador to South Sudan, Nabil Mahdi, said the program is to create awareness about the cooperative framework and its benefits to the government and people of South Sudan. Ethiopia wants to identify possible areas of cooperation with South Sudan on capacity building in the areas of utilization of water resources such as irrigation, he added. Chairperson of the Standing Specialized Committee on Water and Irrigation, Bangwat Amum, said the awareness creation platform would help the committee to contribute its share in strengthening the mutual cooperation. South Sudan is in the process of ratifying the cooperative framework agreement.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Teta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and World Remit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Burr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
Ethiopia is about to start producing human vaccines. Government's main agenda focuses on enhancing local vaccine production, and for the realization of this move, Ethiopian Ministry of Health, in collaboration with partners and stakeholders, is playing its share. The Council of Ministers approved the establishment regulation of Ethio Biopharma Group, which is proposed to be established by including the Shield Vax Enterprise and existing National Animal Health Protection Institute, which will mark a milestone in this effort. It said that the approval of the regulation will lay the foundation for ensuring the country's emergency preparedness and creating a strong healthcare system. The Ethio Biopharma Group is expected to start producing vaccine, medical equipment, and also diagnostic, both for human and animal consumption for local and international market. In line with the African Union 2040 local vaccine production plan, the establishment of this group is believed to alleviate vaccine constraints while availing job opportunities in meeting advanced medical equipment. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres launched a new policy brief outlining his vision of a more robust multilateral framework to boost peace, security for a world in flux. He highlighted geopolitical tensions, grave human rights violations, distrust in public institutions, new conflicts, terrorism, and the weaponization of emerging technologies. Insecurity is being stoked by rising threat of nuclear war and growing skepticism towards multilateralism, Guterres added. The policy brief is framed around the core principles of trust, solidarity, and universality that provide the foundation for the UN Charter and of a stable world, the UN chief added. The new agenda for peace presents 12 concrete sets of proposals for action in 5 priority areas. The Portuguese diplomat who held this job at the UN since 2017 called for strong measures to prevent conflicts at a global level and address geopolitical divisions, prioritizing diplomacy and investments in regional security architectures. Chinese Fujian shoe factory resumed producing shoes after closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The factory announced that it has created job opportunities for 1,000 Ethiopian citizens. Goshumeliso brings up to the speed.
On 300 hectares of land in Lebu on the outskirts of Addis Ababa, producing 2,000 pairs of shoes per day, the factory is exporting to African, European and American markets. The factory has cut off production due to the widespread of COVID-19 pandemic. Now the factory has resumed producing shoes with the support of Ministry of Trade and Industry.
Before the pandemic of the COVID-19, we had exported our products to Europe and American markets. The factory was closed due to the COVID-19. Now we have resumed our production through importing raw materials from China with kindly assistance of Industry Ministry.
Fujian Factory Deputy President further said the footwear factory has received orders from National Defense Forces to supply 100,000 pairs of shoes.
Our factory has been exporting shoes to European markets. Now we have receiving orders from the National Defense Force to produce shoes with the standard of American and European markets.
Employees of the company underscored that they have got skills and knowledge of shoemaking.
I knew nothing before shoemaking before, but after I joined the factory, I acquired shoemaking skills. I would like to say thank you to the company.
Fujian Factory is contemplating to produce and expand brand shoes, it was learned.
The Addis-Djibouti corridor is to get major upgrade with the aim of improving regional connectivity and logistics efficiency in Ethiopia, along with a key trade route connecting Ethiopia to the port of Djibouti, according to the World Bank. The corridor, a vital trade route and a lifeline for Ethiopia's 120+ million people, will get a significant upgrade thanks to the newly approved Horn of Africa Initiative's Regional Economic Corridor project. The press release issued by the World Bank on Thursday said the project, endowed with $730 million grant from the International Development Association, aims to improve regional connectivity and logistics efficiency in Ethiopia. Minister of Finance Ahmed Shideh said that the improved regional connectivity and trade are essential to unlocking Ethiopia's economic potential. Over 95% of Ethiopia's import-export trade by volume uses the Addis-Djibouti corridor.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Theta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and World Remit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Burr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
We are just officially entering into the Masai Mara National Reserve. Where our camp is the Mara North Conservancy. So it's a conservation area, but it's not technically like the National Reserve. The National Reserve is actually $80 per person per day to get in. So it's very steep. If you're planning a trip to the Mara in Kenya, keep that in mind. And that's something that's usually not included in your camp.
That was so cool. There she is.
Oh yeah, we found a cheetah. What a treat! Oh my god.
And finally, in Kenya's Dadaab refugee camp, thousands of new Somali refugees are struggling as food insecurity worsens. The Kenyan government is discussing the situation with the United Nations with a view of integrating the refugees into host communities in the future. Haftam Ashagri presents the report by African News as follows.
Amid Somalia's worst drought decades, thousands of new refugees have fled over the border of Kenya's Dadaab refugee camp, one of the world's largest and home to over 360,000 registered refugees.
Our means of transportation were so limited that we had to arrange our few remaining items en route in a vehicle. We were not able to live there because my brother and mother were murdered, and that is the reason why we didn't have the chance to live there anymore.
Insecurity has plagued Somalia for years, with parts of the country controlled by Al-Qaeda backed Al-Shabaab. Now climate change, the impact of the war in Ukraine and reduced aid has further threatened food security.
The immediate impacts we see is household food insecurity, because families that used to prepare probably 3 meals a day have now reduced to prepare either 2 meals or a meal a day, and that's quite extreme. We also observe families from our monitoring who are now increasingly borrowing food from friends, relatives, or even begging for food because the food that we give is not able to last the 30 days, but it takes about 15 to less than 20 days.
According to the World Food Programme, food rations have been cut from 80 to 60% of the minimum daily nutritional requirements due to reduced donor funding, as donors focus instead on Ukraine. aid workers said the low ration will likely worsen malnutrition cases in the camp.
We are facing difficulties with the funding landscape. We have fewer resources to be able to manage these cases, including human resource, but also the commodities that we use to treat malnutrition. How we're handling it right now is, we have to work with the little that we have. And as the International Rescue Committee, we're trying to come up with innovative solutions to handle this influx and still be able to give our clients the care that they need and help them to recover from these challenges that they have with their nutritional status.
With written prospect for Somali refugee bleak, Kenya is in discussion with the United Nations on integrating the refugees into host communities in the future.
Over now to quick reminder of the headlines. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed vows to solidify ties with Chinese Communist Party. African youth urge African governments and institutions to advance youth interests. Well, you have been watching ETV News. Thanks for your company and have a great time.